This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Is Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm tenure finally over? That is the most recent rumor making the rounds. But could there be truth to it? While nothing is set in stone or made official as of the making of this video, there are some indications that something may be transpiring behind the scenes. Although we cannot say for certain what that something is. We can, however, point to the steps that lead to it. In this video, we will begin by going through the context that has taken us to this point. Then, we'll go through the most current rumors, and finally, some complicating factors. Whatever hot water the Kennedy faction may be in, it can be traced back to anger from the audience, as Kathleen Kennedy's mismanagement of Lucasfilm by all accounts was costing Disney and Disney shareholders money. The hashtag Cancel Disney Plus has been trending for a while now, and we've heard unconfirmed reports that thousands, or even in the tens of thousands of Disney Plus subscriptions have indeed been canceled. Many moving to the high seas for the Marvel content they want, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the upcoming Loki, and Black Widow movie, and more. Please note that this is something neither Midnight's Edge, our sponsors, nor any other affiliates condones. Not only is piracy wrong, you are exposing yourself to endless spyware, tracking software, and other malware out there on the high seas. And that's on top of all the data that is stolen from you during all of your regular browsing. Well, modern problems require modern solutions, and many of them can be found in a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which guarantees instant online safety and encrypts all data sent via the internet. On top of that, Surfshark allows you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which also gives you access to 15 different Netflix libraries by simply changing your virtual location. Not only that, outside of the US, Star, the international version of Hulu, comes bundled with Disney Plus. If you're in the US and change your location to, say, the UK, well, then you just might get that too. One of the advantages with Surfshark over many other VPN providers is that it allows one account to be used on unlimited devices. That's part of the reason why Surfshark is the VPN of our choice, and it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive offer in which you now get 83% off the normal list price, plus 3 extra months for free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Do check out the link in the description below for further details and to order. With that, let's dive into what possibly could be the road to the end for Kathleen Kennedy's reign at Lucasfilm. Contrary to what some of our detractors like to accuse us of, Midnight's Edge has never made a video suggesting Kathleen Kennedy has been fired, or that her firing was imminent. On the contrary, we have for years argued why she wouldn't be going anywhere until she was good and ready for it. However, what had the potential to change that was the firing of fan favorite Gina Carano. It has been heavily rumored that this firing was orchestrated by Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm faction, in an overt attempt at sabotaging the Favreau faction's plans for the cinematic universe of sorts set up by The Mandalorian, as Gina Carano was to have a central role in that. Keep in mind, she was handpicked by Jon Favreau, and the character of Cara Dune was created for her. It's suspected that the Kennedy faction's thinking is that with the Mandoverse in freefall, which it would descend into with the sudden removal of the load-bearing pillar that was Gina Carano, audiences would shift their affections over to the Kennedy faction's own fledgling High Republic initiative. In removing Carano, however, they bit off more than they could chew, and created a backlash more severe than they imagined. And this backlash wasn't just coming from the fan community, but from within Disney, and worse yet, Disney shareholders. 1 month ago, writer, producer, former showrunner for Disney, and our good friend Kamran Pasha described the Disney stakeholder reaction this way.
The money people already know that they had a plan in Favreau, right? We know that. So people who are sitting around making models, who are making $25 million a year on Wall Street know that even better than we do. And they have the contacts inside the company to confirm it, right? And so they knew that Favreau was putting on a track. They saw it in the rise of subscription to Disney Plus. They saw it in the global reaction to Luke Skywalker's return. They saw it in the Baby Yoda toy sales. They saw it in the Gina Carano toy sales, right? So they knew there was a plan, and they knew that this was someone subverting the plan for their own personal ego. They know what this is, and so they saw this coming. So this is very much a system going, man, we had this back on track. We were going to make money on this. A year from now, this was going to be in the black, or on the path to being on the black at last, after almost a decade of being in the red. And you're messing with it for your own ego. And we know what this is about because we're all egomaniacs ourselves. So we know what this is about.
This reaction from Disney shareholders could very well have been what sparked the March 11th hit piece from Forbes, titled, "Disney's firing of Gina Carano is confusing and hypocritical, lacking sound management." Forbes is a magazine which is read by all Disney stakeholders, Disney's corporate partners, as well as Disney's corporate enemies. It launched a direct assault aimed at Disney CEO Bob Chapek, and that is unprecedented. It may be the single most condemning article from a major publication in Disney's history. Forbes directly accused Chapek of mismanagement, as well as being a hypocrite and displaying double standards by firing Gina Carano for a social media post, when Pedro Pascal got away scot-free for an arguably far worse social media trespass surrounding the exact same theme. Kamran Pasha broke down the article with us and argued that this article pushed Bob Chapek's back against the wall and gave him the excuse to act.
I used to be a journalist myself. I've dealt with journalists here in LA, and the story is the end result of many people trying to make it happen, right? And that's what this is. And it's put Chapek in a position where his leadership and his place in history of Disney is now in question amongst the investors. So now he has whatever leverage Ms. Kennedy has over the system. It's now about personal survival, right? And that's the option that basically the people behind this have given him, saying you can keep protecting her as Mr. Iger did, and can lose your job and be blamed for all of this because she's not mentioned in the article, or you can do what the old Hollywood tradition of pass the buck, this time to someone who deserves it, and remove her from power. This is an effort to remove Ms. Kennedy from power because they're telling Chapek it's you or her. This is a bubble that's being pricked here and the only way it could be pricked is by people who are part of the club. Forbes is the spokesperson for the club, right? I don't know if any of you have seen that movie. I just saw it this week in a theater when theaters open up in Los Angeles, News of the World. Which is a really wonderful movie. It's a Western with Tom Hanks, but it's an unusual thing where Tom Hanks plays essentially an early news reporter. He goes from town to town in the Old West, bringing newspapers to people who have no access to information outside the little town from Dallas, Austin, all these places. And he reads the newspapers and tells them what's going on in the world. And there's this wonderful moment where he comes into a corrupt town run by a sleazy boss hog type who controls the town, who prints his own newspaper. And he has Tom Hanks try to read it. Hanks instead basically, flips the situation. But the point was that guy was creating propaganda, and the only one that could actually stop him was someone within the club, which is Hanks, right? And so that's what this is. We're facing the rise of the reaction within the cocktail party, saying, thank you for saying that nice speech. You're messing with my pocketbook now. I'm done. The ultimate conspiratorial thing of this would be if this was actually coming out of Chapek's office himself, which I said to Stephanie Janicek, right? Because now he's being portrayed as the villain. And you're like, why would he get himself portrayed as the villain of the story? Because it gives him the cover to do what everyone in Hollywood understands, which is pass the buck, right? And so no one in Hollywood would blame him for covering his butt and removing the person that's bringing him this kind of drama.
So it could be a game for the chess. So it might not be someone else within Disney.
Because Chapek is at the level that Forbes would do this. I mean, that's the amazing.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, a call from Chapek's office or from one of his minions is enough to set this in motion. And this, I said from the beginning when this happened that the reaction to Gina's firing, because that was a shot across the bow at Disney's final effort at profitability with Star Wars and Jon Favreau. I said that's going to create a Machiavellian response to remove her because she is acting in such a blatant, straightforward fashion. The way to remove her has to be Machiavellian, and the ultimate Machiavellian thing is to sacrifice your own name temporarily in order to remove the person that's creating drama for your bottom line.
In the aftermath of this, many YouTubers and other commentators critical of Disney's handling of Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy's reign noticed an uptick in various cancellation and defamation attempts.
And then they started doing this aggressive attacks on me, eventually having my Twitter pulled. And then we saw within days of that, we saw the attacks on the character of Jeremy Griggs and other YouTubers, right? Calling them racists. All of that is being orchestrated by the Lucasfilm people. Those are not the actions of confident people who've won a war. Those are the actions of people that are terrified and afraid of any source of problem for them, because they know the ground is shifting under their feet and they're trying to take back control. That's what we're witnessing.
On April 10th, another Star Wars leak was posted on Reddit. We say another because there have been many Star Wars leaks before, and there will no doubt be many more in the future. This one, however, was different. Different in that it had all the hallmarks of being an intentionally planted leak, serving an ulterior motive. While we can't say for certain that it certainly looked that way. As we covered in our breakdown of it, this leak claimed that there had never been a cold civil war at Lucasfilm, merely a disagreement over direction. And that wasn't Kennedy's fault. On the contrary, Kathleen Kennedy was absolved of any and all wrongdoing. And more than that, the leaker claimed that she had a great working relationship with Jon Favreau, and even wanted him to take over Lucasfilm after her.
You serious?
Finally, the leaker praised filmmaker J.J. Abrams as an auteur, who, alongside Kathleen Kennedy herself, was the only one exonerated from any and all wrongdoing by the leaker. Loyal Kathleen Kennedy's servant Pablo Hidalgo, however, was thrown under the bus and blamed for whatever strife there may have been between the Kennedy and Favreau factions. Kamran Pasha returned to our live morning show to discuss this leak, which he believed was orchestrated by Kathleen Kennedy.
You know, Kathleen Kennedy has figured out over the past several weeks that the game is over, that Jon Favreau is essentially going to win this, right? So whatever little revenge she got out of Gina Carano's firing and all this other stuff, it ultimately is going to fizzle out and she's going to move on. And so now is the time to change the narrative to make her the hero. And even though we'll talk about why this doesn't make her sound heroic, because it's not a well thought out PR move. None of this has been well thought out. But the poorly thought out PR move is setting out this leak, right, which completely exonerates Kathleen Kennedy, which is delusional stuff. I have friends who have said to me that major directors, I won't name them, but we all know who they are, the ones that were fired by Ms. Kennedy, despise her. They despise her on a very deep, visceral, and personal level. They took their firing very personally, and they're too classy to come out right and say it, right? But there's a lot of knives out from very powerful people. And so this is her realizing, okay, it looks like my tenure is actually up. I think this is pretty much the last leg of it. So now I've got to protect my reputation. And all these dumb clowns that did whatever I said, hoping that it would advance their careers, I'm going to burn all of them down because they never matter. This is the beginning of a narrative where Kathleen Kennedy will present herself to the world as someone who is blameless, as someone who is heroic, and ultimately it was these dumb, immature Lucasfilm ideologues that pushed the franchise away from her brilliant vision, right? That's going to be the final story.
1 hour after this was recorded, Overlord DVD dropped his video where he revealed that according to his sources, Kathleen Kennedy allegedly has or is in the process of being removed from her position as the head of Lucasfilm. Please note that pending official confirmation of her no longer serving as Lucasfilm's head honcho, whether that be by way of quote-unquote promotion or otherwise, this must be taken with a grain of salt. We have so far not been able to verify the veracity of these rumors. However, for the sake of argument, let us for a moment assume that the rumor is legit. If that were the case, then per our earlier reporting recounted in this video, you would be able to draw a direct line between the misguided firing of Gina Carano and the end of the Kathleen Kennedy regime. There is, however, one complicating factor. It has recently been reported that Indiana Jones is not merely in development, but in aggressive development, with both Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen reportedly having been cast in it. That the movie casting suggests it may be happening after all, And Kathleen Kennedy is contractually bound to Indiana Jones the same way Amy Pascal is to Spider-Man, meaning that for better or worse, it would be very difficult to do the movie without her. If Indiana Jones 5 is in production, Kathleen Kennedy isn't leaving the Magic Castle until that is released and out. And hiring Phoebe Waller-Bridge to star and, in all likelihood, work on the script seems very consistent with Kathleen Kennedy's MO. Case in point, she already hired her as the activist droid in the Solo movie. But just because Kathleen Kennedy won't be leaving the Magic Castle until Indiana Jones is out, doesn't necessarily mean that she will stay on as head of Lucasfilm. And if she does remain with Lucasfilm, that doesn't mean she will retain her current leverage over Star Wars, which is already diminished. It is not outside the realm of possibility that Indiana Jones 5 coming together right now might be some kind of compensation for her losing something else. We will keep you up to date as this story unfolds, and until then, let us know your thoughts on all of this in the comments. And before you go, remember to help bypass the quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions and protect your data, you should get Surfshark VPN. Use our code MIDNIGHT to get 83% off plus 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.